listening to Shy Sox Talk with your hosts, Chris and Matt, your weekly place for White Sox fan reactions. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Shy Sox Talk. My name is Chris, as always, here with my good friend and co-host, Matt. How are you tonight?
Doing great. Doing great. Can't wait to talk about the White Sox. Been a few brief moments between episodes.
Yeah.
Busy lives.
Busy lives, and I think we both needed a mental moment to
We
overcome the disappointment that was 2022.
Yeah, it would have been ruthlessly negative. If anyone was listening while driving, they probably would have driven off the road.
Or, that's probably true.
Maybe stayed on the road and just gone into the other lane. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Into the barrier. If you're on your way to O'Hare, you could have driven right into the L station. That's right there.
Slip it right in there.
Right in the blue line. So some big news from the White Sox tonight. Well, not tonight, but in general, we're going to talk about new skipper in town.
New skip.
Pedro Griffal. I believe.
R.I.P. Tony La
right.
Russa.
Yeah,
Tony La Russa died this weekend after getting in a DUI head-on collision. Oh, I'm sorry. That is incorrect. I'm sorry.
He might, though. Tony La Russa is probably somewhere enjoying his life, drinking a few to 900 cocktails in his, in his retirement home. So, Pedro, bench coach of the Royals. The more I read about the guy, the happier I've been about it. One thing I did see a lot from her DMs and from White Sox fans in general were people talking about, somebody with recent success or with a team with recent success. If you look at the past 10 years, the Royals have more World Series appearances than the White Sox do playoff series won. So I think this guy is, I think he's going to be okay. 52 years old from Miami. What do you think, man?
I'm excited about it. I really think the manager held the White Sox back the past 2 seasons. Strategy-wise, he messed up like almost every time he made the wrong decision, it seemed like. On top of that, it seemed like the players were flat, horrible press conferences, like just not what, as a fan, just as a fan, not a fun guy to hear talk about your favorite team. You looked old, you looked tired. Seemed like that kind of you are who you play as your manager, right? Like your manager is the team's personality, and he kind of dictates that throughout. And it seemed like the White Sox manager was an old dude about ready to hang it up. So glad this guy's relatively young for a manager. I don't know much about him. But from what I've heard in interviews with him and things like that, he seems like a breath of fresh air. And my favorite part about him is he has no connection to the White Sox that I know of. There might be 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of scenario where he worked with someone who worked with someone who worked with someone. But I don't think he's connected to the White Sox at all, and that makes me believe that this is Rick Hahn's decision without Jerry Reinsdorf.
I absolutely agree with that. I think, just having new blood in the building with him, with the hitting coach, they want to hit the ball out of the park. That's their whole philosophy. Get some grit in you. And he has a winning record also against the White Sox the past few seasons. I don't think the White Sox have performed well. And, maybe he sat down in the interview and was like, this is how I helped beat you for the past 2 years. This is how people game plan against you. And this is how I can help those flaws not be flaws.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the Royals were world beaters the past couple of years, but they've developed some young talent that looks promising, and they've kind of kicked the White Sox ass. So we're kind of this last season was really weird because the White Sox performed pretty well against playoff contenders, and just looks like they took the day off when they were playing lower tier teams. So hopefully they can continue to play competitively this season against playoff contenders and really step on the throat with these teams that you're supposed to beat.
And I agree with that, right? If you look at the White Sox your comment, you are who your manager is. I mean, how many series openers did the White Sox just look awful in? How many times did they have a game wrapped up and they didn't finish it? Like that game in Baltimore, that it felt like another time the White Sox just like Adam Engel catch the ball. You know what I mean?
I think that was the nail. That was the final nail in the coffin for the season. For anyone who had hope, when he dropped that and then they lost, it was kind of, it's over now, folks.
Yeah. And it just felt like time and time again, like Tony fall asleep in the dugout. You had a 6-run lead against the Rangers and couldn't close it out on Saturday afternoon. Like, Yohan Moncada ran the team into a triple play against the Twins. It felt like they were never prepared. They weren't awake, and just feels like a fresh air in the building.
Yeah, and I'm glad that third base coach is gone and the first base coach. Third base coach, pathetic performance for Super Joe in the last season here. Absolutely abysmal. Not sure how he survived the season. I'm surprised Tony didn't try and scapegoat him. I would have if I was the manager. And then also good to see Darryl Boston gone. You can kind of do a little research on Darryl Boston, and maybe you'll find some articles about him in 1990. And maybe he's not a great guy. So maybe he's a real bad guy.
And not only maybe his old bad guy ways, but Super Joe in charge of the infield and being good at defense, bad at defense, bad shifts. Doesn't make any sense.
He was horrible sending them to third base.
Darryl Boston was in charge of the outfield, and Luis Robert has progressively gotten worse. Eloy is no longer an outfielder. Andrew Vaughn didn't improve at all. And Gavin
in that case, kind of hard to blame him with 2 first basemen playing the corners. I think that's tough assignment.
But there should be some improvement, like some level.
Yeah, they definitely got worse. Andrew Vaughn got worse in the outfield. Maybe that's just because of like the initial sample size hit him, but he did look worse noticeably. Gavin Sheets looked like a Gold Glover compared to Andrew Vaughn out there this year. I don't know how or why, but.
Even AJ Pollock looked like that at times in the outfield. And that's all on Darryl Boston. The shifts in the infield that made no sense. Like when they shifted against the Guardians rookie, Nolan Gorman, right? Nolan Gorman.
I don't remember his name.
They shifted at like his first ever at-bat. Lance Lynn wasn't told about the shift, pitched to a ground ball where the second baseman should be. Like, why are we shifting on a guy?
And their shift didn't work a lot of the time,
ever.
Especially against not this last season, but the season before against the Astros. Their shifts never worked in the playoff series.
Never.
It's not like the Astros really beat up the White Sox 10-0, 15-0, just really smoked them. Like the games were for the most part competitive, and if they would have shifted properly, maybe it's a little more competitive. Maybe if they don't put in pinch hit Larry Garcia for some insane reason.
Make him play right
and
field.
then play right field the very next inning.
Up 2 runs.
Up two runs.
2 runs.
Maybe that changes some stuff. But, that's Tony La Russa. He's probably thinking about what vodka he's going to drink and not what the lineup's supposed to look like.
Tony La Russa wrote the book. He wrote the book, everybody, and we should have just read his book.
He wrote the book, and the book's out of date. The book's been out of date for a while. I think he tarnished his legacy. I don't know why he came back. I really don't. Maybe
the fact that he asked Major League Baseball Hall of Fame that if it would affect him still being in should have been a red flag to the White Sox on if the guy was actually going to put in a real effort. But Pedro, welcome to the South Side. Super excited for it.
Welcome on the show anytime.
Welcome anytime. Anytime you want to come, I will be at spring training. I will badger you for a TikTok. I'll try to do it in Spanish, man. All right?
I'll try too, and Chris has got way better Spanish than I do.
And my Spanish is rough. On to our new segment, which I thought would be fun during the off season. It's called Matt's the GM. So I'm going to propose Matt a situation or two every week, and we're going to, talk about it, see if you even do it, consider it, maybe what you'd change. Situation is Jose Brady's not coming back. I think as White Sox fans, we can kind of all really accept that. We put a post up on Instagram saying it's official. We get the team hasn't announced it, but he's not coming back. It would have never leaked out.
Unless they trade Andrew Vaughn.
It's official.
It's official. And I don't think they're going to trade Andrew Vaughn. I think they really like Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah. So you get 20
so do
million saved. Me too. You get 20 million saved with Jose. All right. Here is my proposal. I'm your assistant coming to you. Go get Dansby Swanson for $25 million a year. Take Tim Anderson, package him with Yoqueli Cespedes and Matthew Thompson and Wes Cass, and you send them to Miami for second baseman Jazz Chisholm.
I'll put my GM hat on here, and maybe this is my fanship bleeding in more than anything, but I would not trade Tim Anderson.
Okay.
I would not trade Tim Anderson because Tim Anderson sets the table. He's kind of like the spirit of the White Sox. I don't know if Jazz Chisholm.
Jazz Chisholm.
You're upset. Thizlam. For the young kids, you go ahead and look up the Thiz Dance by Mac Dre. That's a party banger. If you really want to play some old school Bay Area beats, get down to that nation of Thizlam.
And really understand how old Matt is.
Yeah, you'll really get a better idea. He's a good player. I've read some things about him kind of being kind of rough everyone hates him on the Marlins. Like apparently he's maybe just like a huge asshole, apparently. Which happens. I mean, there's guys in the league who are like really good players, and everyone's like, yeah, this dude is a piece of shit, and we all hate him, but he's very good at baseball, so we live with it. There's tons of guys throughout the league like that. Like Adam Eaton.
Oh yeah.
White Sox great. Nobody liked him. Nobody liked him on the White Sox. Maybe
World
3 guys.
Champion, though.
Chris Sale, another guy people probably didn't. He probably rubbed some people the wrong way.
World Series champion.
World Series champion.
Both World Series champions. Yes. Barry Bonds.
I'm not saying they're bad at baseball. I'm saying Adam Eaton's bad now, but he was good. So
yeah, he got us Lucas.
Yeah,
so you don't do it.
I don't do it because I think Tim Anderson's perfectly fine shortstop. Honestly, I'd be more interested instead of trading Tim Anderson. If you're going to get a shortstop, I would maybe try and see if he can play outfield. And I'm sure he's a really good athlete. Or third base. Like maybe Tim Anderson can play third base. I know he doesn't have huge power numbers, and then you have Moncada play second again. Or see if Tim Anderson can play second. Like if you're going to bring in a premium shortstop, I would keep Tim Anderson on the team and see where he fits better.
Okay, I like that. I see your GM world.
Like I'm like get Carlos Correa as shortstop, back up the Brinks truck, and then just figure out where to put Tim. Because
if you're going to back up the Brinks truck, would you rather back up the Brinks truck and see if you can get Trey Turner to play second? If you're going to really back up the Brinks truck for somebody, you might as well get somebody who can play second then.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to pay these guys these huge contracts, the position won't matter so much. So, when you're playing for your contract, you're going to want to be the shortstop because those guys get paid the most. But when you get paid, when you're receiving the contract for which you've played already, when you're getting your payout, it doesn't matter what position. That's the same. Manny Machado's I'll play wherever. But while he was on the Orioles, he's like, I'm going to play shortstop.
I'm play third base.
I'm play shortstop. Play third base. I want to show these guys my defensive skills. Trey Turner would be cool. I think we just need to get more left-handed though.
I mean, I absolutely agree. Yeah, that's kind of why Jazz Chisholm came to mind there. But the White Sox are, from all accounts, will probably gain a lefty in right field with Oscar Colas. At least it's been discussed.
And I'm very bullish on Oscar Colas. I think from what I've read about him, his profile projects to be a good Major League Baseball player, and he's got a good arm. He's got a good arm in right field. He'll be a better fielder than what we've been throwing out there. I don't know if he's a plus fielder. He might be an average fielder, but an average fielder compared to what we've been throwing out in right field is like going to save 5 runs. Like,
well, not only that, but like he's also not like a kid. Like people are like he spent 1 year in the minors. The guy's like 24 years old.
yeah, he's old. Yeah, he's old.
He's a grown man.
Him and
he is a grown man.
Yoelki are both older dudes. Like it's their time to shine.
I think Yoelki is trade bait. I do not have really much faith in him at all. He's batting like a 222 in Double-A. I'm probably a little off on that, but it's not like impressive.
And Colas murdered the ball in Double-A, and that's not a hitter's park. That's
also
not
murdered the ball in Charlotte
right.
for
That's
7 games.
not a hitter park, right?
No, it's not. It's where White Sox hitters go to die and lose their career.
Yeah, it's like it's not a park where you can crush it.
The Barons.
Luis Robert was murdering them in Double-A, and like from the guys I follow on Twitter, R.I.P. Twitter.
We're gonna work there.
No, I'm gonna do with my life. Like they're like, this dude might be the real deal. So I think you got to give him a shot. I don't know if like maybe you should sign a guy instead, like see what like have a backup plan in place.
Well, actually, that brings me to my second scenario. GM Matt.
Segue.
You send okay. The Seattle Mariners just got Teoscar Hernandez. The White Sox want to add a lefty bat. So why don't we go ahead and send Jared Kelly to Seattle and bring Jesse Winkler to the south side of Chicago to play left field?
Honestly, from like what I've been reading, like me not as the GM, I think that Jesse Winker is going to be on the White Sox. And he had a bad year last year. Like he got traded. And he's another clubhouse guy that everyone was kind of thought he was kind of being a jerk last year for whatever reason. I guess the rumors he's like kind of phoned it in after he got traded. Didn't like being in Seattle apparently. I would take Jesse Winker. Like for his career, he's been a decent hitter as a lefty, which that's what we're looking for. His defensive stats are pretty abysmal, but I don't think you could possibly be as bad as Andrew. Like I don't think the stats, advanced stats, regular stats, normal stats, like they do not do justice to how horribly bad Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets were in the outfield. Like they're like so far off the charts that like the stats can't properly say how bad they are.
And Andrew Vaughn will be better as a hitter, better as a base runner, and better as a fielder at first base. He's going to be better because he's not running around an outfield that takes way more effort and you're tired.
And getting injured. He got injured like in the first week. I remember.
Yeah.
I thought he was out for the season.
Oh, yeah, because he dove and tried to get that ball. Like Andrew Vaughn at first base will be better as everything than he was this year. And he's going to replace Jose Bray's production. I'm booking it right now. What is it? November 18th at 5:51 Eastern Standard Time. Book it. Andrew Vaughn will replace Jose's.
And everyone was really sad when Paul Konerko said goodbye, but and it's kind of like the same scenario where they played together for a little bit, you know, and you can kind of you saw it happening. Paul Konerko kind of bottom fell out, which didn't really happen with Jose Abreu, but the power numbers, if you're looking at just pure power numbers, the bottom did fall out. You know, 15 home runs, not acceptable out of a first baseman.
And I get that he led the American League or maybe all baseball in hits, but we don't need your 3 or 4 hole hitter to hit singles. Well, we need home runs. We need doubles. We need that to be like the White Sox especially have to have that as power position.
Yep, and he wasn't like the insane RBI machine either, which he's used to. We're used to seeing with him is, you know, anytime there's a runner in scoring position, they're going to score. He kind of faltered at that too, and that's what you're a first baseman. You need to be driving in runs. You need to be hitting for power. You need to hit home runs. Like you look at all the advanced stats you want, but you need to hit home runs in first base to win. Yeah. Guy just needs to hit home runs. And it's been that way since the beginning of baseball. Even when people barely ever hit home runs, that guy needs to be one of the home run hitters on your team.
And White Sox fans, we're not really spoiled with much. Like, let's be honest. But we've been very spoiled with good first basemen, from going from Frank to Paul to Jim Tomei to Jose Abreu to now Andrew Vaughn. Like, the White Sox have been very rich at first base when there are a lot of franchises that are very bad at finding first base.
Yeah, they got that. They're good at finding that position. So
Just
I wish they could have done more with
Abreu.
But he was a great player for the White Sox. Happy trails to him. Hopefully he's great on whatever team he plays. Unless they're playing the White Sox, I hope he goes 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts.
Especially if his only place, I will say, I hope he just absolutely tanks and goes to the north side of Chicago. I hope he bats 110 and doesn't hit a singular home run.
If the Cubs sign Trey Turner and Jose Abreu, and the White Sox, throw like a goose egg up there in the offseason, it's going to be a very sad time for me.
It's going to be like when Rick Hahn said, the White Sox are higher than mediocrity. We're trying to be great, when he said that in 2016. And look at that, 8 years later.
Hey, you know what? 2 playoff. That's great for White Sox going back-to-back playoff runs. First time they ever did it. So
take it. We'll take that. And then the other part of our episode 9 is we're going to grade the starting pitching staff for the Chicago White Sox of the 2022 season. Just the starters tonight. I'll start you off with a good layup here. What grade would you give Dylan Cease?
You know what? I think I'm going to give it an A+. Not even an A or an A-. I'm going to give it an A+. He was fantastic. He put it all together. So, he had shown this ability. And people, the scouting report, you see him, he's like, could be a future Cy Young winner if he puts it all together. And if Justin Verlander didn't exist, he would have won the Cy Young this year. But, Justin Verlander somehow miraculously, being that old, keeps getting better. I wonder how. Wonder how.
It's weird. Modern medicine.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, usually you get become a worse athlete as you get older, but it's ascending in ability somehow. It's interesting.
Henderson.
Yeah,
Wheaties
and Flintstone vitamins, baby. That's what he's on. But yeah, no, Dylan Cease is definitely an A+. Dylan Cease put it all together. All pitching in the zone, pitching out of pitches out of the zone, making sure they're close enough that you get a swing. That's it's not all about throwing strikes. It's about throwing pitches that look like strikes, right? That's basically modern day pitching is, you're fooling batters because they're all so good. And he was miraculous this year. Unbelievable. The slider was probably the best pitch in Major League Baseball, other than, as we talked about earlier, Emmanuel Clase's cutter. Like, are those the 2 best pitches in baseball when they're going? They might be. But yeah, definitely A+.
Yeah, Dylan Cease, 184 innings pitched, 2.20 ERA, a 1.11 WHIP, 227 strikeouts, and 78 walks. Dylan Cease has gotten a lot better at repeating the pitch. Like, when it's a 1-2 count and you throw one on the corner and it's called a ball, like, he is so much better at throwing that pitch again, when before it would be, he would try to, but then it would be 9 feet out of the zone and not even close. Like, he is so much better at repeating that pitch now, and he looks like a pro. And he stepped up and was that guy for the White Sox this year. Like, when Lucas went down and pitched bad and somebody needed to be the ace, like, he was that dude. He just was.
Yeah, and he's always shown the ability to be able to get ahead in his entire career. Since he first came up in the majors, he was getting ahead, but he just couldn't punch people out all the time. And then, the last, not the most recent season, but the season before that, you could see him, like it's almost been linear progression for him of just getting better and better and better. So I guess he'll win the Cy Young this year if he's still on that linear path.
The only thing that he can improve on, and I think he will, is he led the league in walks. But, like, when you have the stuff he does, like, that's going to happen. But he also led the league in strikeouts. So, can we really be that upset when when he's carrying that many guys and not letting people on base. Like
No.
elite level pitching from Dylan Cease this year. Next guy up to bat here, or on the bump, I suppose. 161 and 2/3 innings, a 4.90 ERA, 1.44 WHIP, 177 strikeouts, and 61 walks. Lucas Giolito.
I think it was overstated this season, like his struggles. I don't think he was as bad as he maybe those like as much as those like if you look at those stats right here and there, it looks like not a great season. But if you actually watch the season, he wasn't horrible. He was pretty decent. I'll give him maybe like a C plus B minus range. He was solid.
Nice.
He was solid, right? He was a solid player. Not the stud that he was, the past couple of seasons. He's kind of looking more like a 3 or 4 guy instead of a 1 guy. But still a solid player. I hope the White Sox extend him. Maybe you can get a discount now because he, wasn't lighting it up. But I think he's a good player. I think he'll bounce back this season as well. He just he got a little unlucky as well, which he kind of always does. He kind of just gets unlucky a lot. He gives up a lot of cheap hits and he gives up the cheapest home runs. He's given up so many cheap home runs that should not get over the fence. That just from watching, it's unbelievable. But I'll go with a C. A C.
A C. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect him to be as bad as he was this year. Next year, he has Ethan Katz for a whole off season, which he needs the guy. Like he's the reason Ethan Katz is with the White Sox, and looks like the White Sox have finally through top-down approach on how to develop pitching. Davis Martin, example number 1.
I like Davis Martin.
Me too. And he just needs to lose some weight. Like his strategy, drop the weight down, rework his mechanics. He doesn't need the slider.
He got
can
so
just
sweaty.
Throw a fastball and a really good changeup and have that velo difference, and he'll just be a two-pitcher pitcher. Just be a two-pitcher guy. It worked for him before.
I agree. Yeah, because he put on the weight because he was going to try and, I guess maybe throw a little harder or something, or have more endurance or something. But he threw slower. He was sweating more.
Didn't last as many innings.
Didn't last as long.
Slider.
All right, just get back to that California Slim Trim, Hollywood build, and just do what you've been doing, dude.
And you know what? Ultimately, if he's a 4, I'd take him in almost any playoff series against almost anybody else's 4.
He's a good 3 too. Not a lot of the 3 and 4 guys throw no hitters. So,
no, Dylan Cease, almost. So
I was watching that on the day before my wedding.
I had the post ready and everything. Almost
the JW Marriott Hotel.
Losing your mind. In loop, baby. Next guy here on the list posted 119 and 1/3 innings, 3.54 ERA, a 1.19 WHIP, elite WHIP, 105 Ks with 57 walks.
Michael Kopech. I'm going to give him. Oh, man, I don't know what to give him. He got hurt a little bit. He hurt his knee. Does that count against him? Does that count against it? Faded toward the end. But did he really fade or,
His whip was still really good.
He wasn't throwing it very hard toward the end, though. He got the dead arm. He had the dead arm. That happens. When you're I'm going to give him a B because he's still developing, and he's pretty good for a development project. I think he has longevity in the league. I think he'll stick around for a while. At the very worst, he's a bullpen guy, right? He's not going to just suck as a starter and then just be out of the league like some guys. He can at the very least be a high leverage bullpen guy because he throws it as 100 miles per hour. His pitch has great movement. He's got very good movement on his pitches. Sometimes he loses a little control. I don't know if that's concentration. I don't know if that's, maybe he's trying to throw it, overthrowing it. That's something for Ethan Katz to figure out. But I'll give him a B. I'm going to give him a B.
I would agree with that. And also, what a lot of people don't remember, this was his first full year of pitching in the majors as a starter. This is the first full one, folks. And, like, you know, he had Tommy Johns and rode back and everything like that. Now he's 26, but
and he snapped his leg in half pitching on accident somehow.
And Tony La Russa kept him in when his leg exploded during warm-ups, and like he got shelled for 5 runs because he threw the ball 82 miles per hour. Like, I think he's going to be our number 2 next year. I think he'll be a finalist for the Cy Young next year. I think he's going to lose Dylan ultimately, but I think the White Sox have a bad dude in Michael Kopech, and I am super pumped for him to see him, like, his next step. Like, I think he's like 2 years behind Dylan.
You think he can make the same kind of jump that Dylan Cease did from middle of the road pitcher to elite top pitcher in the league?
I think in 5 years he's going to be better. Ultimately, like, when we look back and be like, who was better, Michael Kopech or Dylan Cease? I think Michael Kopech will be. I might be eating my words, but I think Michael Kopech's that guy. He needs a pitcher. He needs a pitch though to throw against lefties. I think he needs a cutter because his fastball has so much movement that anytime he tries to throw an inside fastball, if he misses, it's like middle.
It's over the middle of the plate. Yeah,
they just absolutely hammer it.
That has so much tail on it though. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I think he needs something to throw against lefties. You know, and I think a cutter makes sense because it works off the slider as well. So, you know, if he can add something like that, or even just a changeup, like just even a changeup, or maybe get with Lance and learn how to throw a sinker. But I think Michael Kopech has like a chance to be bona fide stud.
So do I. I mean, that's why he got drafted. That's why the Red Sox had him. That's why, you know, that's why you needed to trade Chris Sale to get him, you know?
Yeah. No,
he wasn't a throw-in. He wasn't a throw-in guy. For anyone wondering, he was a very big part of that trade happening. So he wasn't just like a guy they threw in at the end.
It was basically him and Yohan that they were trading Chris Sale
we need these 2 guys. And
if you want to give us one on the back end, cool. If not, we'll take these 2. Like, yeah, Michael Kopech though, I don't know. I mean, I think this next year you're going to see like a huge step. Like a real big boy step. Because he can already throw the second pitch, right? Like if he misses the 2-1, he can come and fire back with like the next one and a 2-2 count, like in the same spot. He can already do that. It's just for him longevity and being able to throw, you know, the amount of innings that he needs to.
Yeah, because he keeps getting injured, and I think it's kind of like it's not like they're overuse injuries or fatigue injuries or things like that. It's all weird stuff. Like Tommy John, it's going to happen, right? Like that's going to happen to like most pitchers that are coming up, most dudes that throw it hard. It's just going to happen at some point. But the knee thing, like that's like
it's like a hole in the mound.
Yeah, like what happened? We don't know. We're not sure. We'll make sure it doesn't happen this year.
Next dude on the list who I think is coming into his contract year, 121 and 2/3 innings, 3.99 ERA, 1.13 WHIP, elite, 124 strikeouts, and oh boy, it's not scrolling down. Here we go. 19 walks. Lance Lynn added the slurve this year, looked great. Kind of after some of his rehab, I think, panned out.
Yeah, like we basically saw him do spring training in the middle of the season. When he came up, and he looked like he was still in spring training. But you know, once he kind of got evened out, he looked pretty good. Is this his contract year?
This year or next year? He signed in 2021. So no, 2 more years. He signed a 3-year deal.
Did he?
2021.
Yeah,
2021, I think. One of the 2. Either way, we got him for next year.
Whatever. We're not the GM, so it's not our job.
Not my job to figure it out.
No, I like Lance Lynn. He's got like that swag. It's like almost like he belonged on the South Side his whole career. You know, he's a tough guy. Looks like he butchers meat and smokes meat and like loves a nice burger and a couple light beers, things like that. Really fits in with kind of the South Side spirit. I'm gonna give him like a, because he got hurt, so I count that against him. So
Hey, count it.
like I have to give him a C because we were kind of expecting ace level stuff out of him, and we didn't get it for the whole year because he was hurt and he was really bad when he first came up. I thought he was done.
Me too.
First, I was like,
three starts
Lance
were
is
really
done.
bad.
They even tweeted maybe some not nice things about him. But I'm gonna give him a C. I think he can come back and play some ball though. So I think the starting pitching staff is going to be it's underrated. I think they're much better than given credit for.
No, I agree. And Lance Lynn did something this year that I think I was hoping to see as a fan. He was such a fastball pitcher that he added that slurve, and it was such a different look than everything else that he had. It made such a difference. It threw guys off balance. He got a bunch of swings and misses on it. And if he brings that pitch back next year, like you're going to see near ace level. Like the top three, I think, for the White Sox rotation next year is pretty set with Kopech, Cease, and Lance. Not in that order. Just those were the order I remember their names. But I think
and if Giolito's your 4, you got a very good pitching staff.
Yeah, and you could even, you could test Davis Martin at 5, use him as a swingman if you want. I'm not going to count him as the starter this year because he wasn't a starter full time this year. But
see, I like Davis Martin.
I do too.
He got the job done.
Too. I would take him at 5, give him a month. Like what is that? 6 starts, right? In a month, something like that. Give him 6.
Yeah, but like I'm only saying that if you're not spending the money on a pitcher and spend it somewhere else, if you're not going to spend the money somewhere else, then get a pitcher. But we know how the White Sox work.
I think you have to spend the money in the field though. You spend so much on your.
You got to spend the money on the guys who play every game.
Yeah.
You got to spend the money on the guys who play every game.
And the last one, the man with the ambulance and the 27 speakers, 158 and 1/3 innings, a 3.35 ERA, kind of fell off at the end a little bit. Had 33 walks, 102 strikeouts, and had actually really kind of middle of the road whip, I think, for a starting pitcher, but was always able to get out of the jam. 1.225. Johnny Cueto. What did you give Johnny Cueto?
Johnny Cueto, seeing as they use a mid-season signing off the street.
Spring training signing came up midway after the
was he spring training signing?
So Lance Lynn got hurt. They signed Johnny Cueto because of it, and then when they DFA'd Dallas, they brought up Johnny.
Well, either way,
he's chilling the minors. Yeah.
Either way, A+.
A plus.
A plus. A plus.
There with Dylan?
Yes.
I agree with that.
He was amazing.
And
for a guy like no one thought he had anything left. Everyone thought he had nothing left. He was great.
I would welcome him back for a nice little deal if they could get him for like $3 million in March.
Yeah, a cheap deal. I would give him another shot, but he might fall apart.
Yeah. He did let a lot of guys on base, but he was able to get out of those jams. And he also led the White Sox in innings pitched per start, averaging 7 and 1/3 innings. Nobody else was even close to that.
It was pretty impressive. Really pretty good run for Mr. Johnny Cueto.
And I think it was just nice to have him in the locker room, like talking to Raylo or Cease or Kovac, and they were just like, hey, man, how do you do this? How do you do that? And he was just like, I run a lot of bleachers, and
I have a bunch of horses. I have a horse stable.
And I'm a bad dude on the mound. Like, I just know that I can get them out by having 35,000 different pitches I can throw, and I'm just sick. All right, go buy some horses, use some land in the Dominican Republic, and just hang out all off season. But I do.
It's a good plan. It's a good off season plan.
Great off season plan. Speaking of our off-season plans, next week we'll be back with some more Matt is the GM, and we'll go into the bullpen grades. We'll dive deep into the White Sox bullpen, which
can't wait to talk about Joe Kelly.
elite signing, Joe Quelly.
And that's Tony's guy. I feel like I really truly feel like that guy who's on the White Sox 100% because of Tony La Russa.
Yeah, well, I remember we were like,
and Leary
yeah.
Garcia.
That's definitely, we were like, hell no to that. But Joe Kelly was signed, and we were technically like, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad takes exposed.
Shut down the 7th inning.
Ice cold take. Old takes exposed, dude. That's us.
Brutal.
Yeah, it was bad.
Overall, though, what would you give the White Sox starting rotation? Group project grade.
For the last season, I don't really think they really blew a lot of games. I think they kept the White Sox in most of the games they pitched. Really, the offense is what, like, that's the White Sox. The offense and the defense. So they pitched pretty well. The defense behind them, like, you can maybe even take a full run off of all these guys' ERAs, or at least a half a run, maybe a quarter run off of everyone's ERA, just because they had the two worst outfielders both playing a lot of games.
Every day.
It was like Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets in the outfield all the time, right and left field. Like,
that's right. You got to get those corners covered.
That's horrible. There was so many that they just dropped in front of them, and it's like any professional, like any pro outfielder,
an average outfielder.
Yeah, just like even a bad outfielder makes their like routine plays were being misplayed, and you can't blame me. They're first baseman. Like they don't have the athleticism. They can't track. They don't have like this magic ability to track the ball like all good elite outfielders have somehow. Like, honestly, I think like the most elite guys could put a blindfold on, and then just from like how the ball sounds off the bat, can like run and have an idea of where to go.
It's right here, right there, bang.
Like they have like maybe they have eagle eyes or something. They can just see the spin. Like I can't even, I'm standing on the outfield. I can't even see the batter.
They're like 300 feet from the batter, and they're like, I got it.
Yeah, right. I can see the spin on that. I can see the spin. That's going to be short.
Andrew Vaughn is like, oh.
Like Luis Robert used to get really good jumps on everything until, kind of like halfway through this season, because he had that weird vertigo thing. He had like 2 or 3 balls just go like past him, and he thought, and then they came out that he was having some sort of like weird vision stuff going on. So
now he's a dad too.
Well, maybe that was where it's coming
from. Get some dad strength. Hopefully.
Wasn't sleeping well enough, apparently.
Any advice to our listeners? Just any advice. Doesn't have to be about the White Sox. Any advice?
Any advice? Maybe just have a nice. If you're of age, just have a nice glass of wine. They're great. I had a glass of wine during this, and it's I feel like $1 million.
Nice,
take your wives and girlfriends out for dates.
There, that's good. That's a good advice. Real good advice. My advice is go find the closest birria taco place you can. Go try that. You haven't had those before? Eat those.
You haven't had a birria taco? You got to get the consomme though. You got to get the dip.
The dip, but it should come with it.
It should, but you got to make sure you're not getting shortchanged wherever you're going. You make sure that consomme is showing up.
Go find, and if you are like in the Chicago area, probably Humboldt Park. Probably going to be your best bet for that.
Yeah, or any like a lot of places.
Walk, bike,
on the south side, probably.
Drive, train, get there, and try birria tacos.
I think there's a place called Don Pedro that I've ordered a few birria tacos from. Also, birria quesadilla, also very good.
Yeah, well, that's like the idea of the taco.
Yeah, no, I got like a quesadilla though with birria.
I know,
and
I get it.
Dunk that bad boy in there.
You're like, that's it. Go White Sox.